Member Burnaby Deer Lake.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Usually when you ask questions in question period, you do get them screened ahead of time, but normally you don't have to get them screened by the Premier of the province before you ask the question. So asking about $700 million worth of assets is not appropriate. Is justice an appropriate question to ask about today?
Go ahead.
Well, I'll try.
Let's see what we get. Let's see what we get.
The minister.
Members. Continue, member.
It's disappointing, you're right. The minister responsible for justice has known for years the Harper government plans to bring in legislation that will have a serious impact on provincial finances. And as far back as September, the minister said, and I quote, "I can tell you it's a pretty massive bill, and we have staff in both of my ministries going through the bill as we speak to look for implications." Months later, and nothing from the minister. A report today by the Independent Parliamentary Budget Officer of Canada, released, said that part of Bill C-10 that restricts conditional sentencing alone is going to cost the provinces and territories roughly $140 million a year. To the Minister of Justice, how much will federal crime legislation cost the province? What is your plan to prepare for the impact? And what are you going to do to ensure that the federal government compensates BC for the costs?
Attorney General.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And what the members on this side of the House have said very clearly is that, in fact, as a government, we actually believe that safe communities for families is pretty critical. So, in fact, members of this side of the House actually went to Ottawa and lobbied for tougher laws to get tough on people who take advantage of young people in British Columbia. You bet we support that. It'd be interesting to see how the member opposite feels. Mr. Speaker, we also support taking a really strong stand against human trafficking in British Columbia. Perhaps the member of the opposition could step up and tell us how she feels about that part of the bill. Mr. Speaker, we've been very clear about this. And unlike the members opposite, we're not prepared to just float numbers around to talk about a secret budget where they're unprepared to back up the details. We're actually going to take the time to make sure that when we put a number forward, we can actually justify it, quantify it. But I can assure you, we've made it clear we support the content of Bill C-10 for safer communities in British Columbia.
Members. Member has supplemental.
I do, Mr. Speaker. Well, the member said that you've been in Ottawa lobbying for this bill, but you've done absolutely nothing about costing the bill or protecting the people of British Columbia. You've been studying it for months, and yet there's absolutely nothing in this year's budget that shows that there's been any preparation for the financial impact to our already overburdened justice system. Clearly, this government doesn't have the jam to tell the Harper government to pay for their own legislation. Again, to the minister responsible for education, will you stand today in the House and tell British Columbians exactly how much the federal crime legislation will cost the province and what your plan is to deal with the impact?
Attorney.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think it's fairly ironic that the member opposite standing up and talking about jam when the question came to her community about whether we should add additional corrections capacity, the only answer we got from the member opposite was, "Not in my backyard." Speaker, obviously the member opposite missed the opportunity that we took in the Okanagan recently to announce a brand new corrections facility that will help us deal with the capacity issues. Not only was that well received, in fact, it actually will create hundreds of jobs, Mr. Speaker. That's what this government is going to do to deal with some of those issues.